Travis Clark pushed open the glass door of his home in Seattle's Capitol Hill neighborhood and inhaled the scent of freshly brewed coffee that his wife, Madison, always had ready for his return. The clock on the kitchen wall read 6:47 p.m., and the orange streetlights were already illuminating the dusk outside. His backpack with his laptop slumped heavily onto the hardwood floor, and Travis rubbed his neck as he pulled off his gray jacket and tossed it over the back of the couch. The day at the engineering firm had left him exhausted. 3 meetings, 2 urgent drawings, and endless client revisions. He longed for a cold beer and some quiet. Madison, he called, noticing that the kitchen was empty and the coffee pot sat alone on the marble countertop. Silence. Just the soft hum of the refrigerator and the distant bark of the neighbor's dog. Travis frowned, walked through the living room, where a fitness magazine lay open on the coffee table, and peered into the hallway. Light was pouring in from their second-floor bedroom. He climbed the creaky stairs, feeling the fatigue weighing on his shoulders. In the bedroom, Madison sat cross-legged on her bed, wearing black leggings and a loose white t-shirt. Her blonde hair was pulled back into a messy bun, and her eyes were glued to her phone. She was scrolling through social media, unaware of Travis leaning against the doorframe. "Hey, are you alive?" he said with a slight grin, trying to get her attention. Madison winced, looked up, and smiled, but it was a strained smile. "Oh, you're home. Sorry, I was lost in thought." She put the phone on the nightstand and patted the bed next to her. "How was your day?" Travis plopped down next to her, stretching out his legs, the bed creaking under his weight. As usual. The clients want a skyscraper for 3 kopecks again, and the boss is yelling that the deadline is burning. He rubbed his temples. "And you?" Madison worked as a marketer for a startup promoting eco-friendly products. Her job was full of meetings with bloggers, presentations, and endless ideas for advertising campaigns. Usually she was enthusiastic about new projects, but today she just shrugged. "It's fine. We launched a new campaign for soy wax candles. Everyone's running around like crazy, but I'm already on autopilot." She paused, looking toward the window, where the curtains were fluttering slightly in a draft. Travis noticed her distance. Usually Madison was like sparks from a sparkler, bright, energetic, filling the space with laughter. Today she seemed off, like a light bulb without power. "Is something wrong?" he asked, leaning closer. "You don't seem like you." Madison sighed, pulling her knees up to her chest. She fidgeted with the hem of her shirt as if gathering her thoughts. "I don't know how to say it." She looked at him, her blue eyes serious. "Travis, don't you think we're stuck?" He frowned, not quite understanding. "Stuck? You mean in Seattle? I thought you liked Capitol Hill." "Not in the city, silly," she smiled weakly, but then grew serious. "In us, in our marriage, everything is so predictable. You come home, I make coffee, we have dinner, watch a series, sleep, and this happens every day. Where is that spark we used to have?" Travis felt something clench inside. He loved Madison with all his heart, her laugh, her habit of singing in the shower, even the way she left her shoes all over the house. But her words stung. He knew they'd both been buried in work for the past couple of years, and the romance had somehow dissolved into bills and mortgages and exhaustion. "You think I don't try?" he asked, trying not to sound offended. "I'm here every day for us." "I know," Madison put her hand on his shoulder, her fingers warm. "And I don't blame you. It's just, I think we've forgotten how to be not only partners, but also lovers. Remember how we'd run to the beach at 3 in the morning, or dance in the rain in the park?" Travis couldn't help but smile as he thought back to those days. 7 years ago, when they'd first started dating, life had been an adventure. Madison could talk him into a spontaneous trip out of town or a night out at the movies. Now, their boldest move was to order a new flavor of pizza. "Yeah, it was cool," he nodded. "But what do you suggest? Run to the beach right now?" "I don't mind, but I need to run quickly. I have a presentation tomorrow at 8 in the morning." Madison laughed, and the sound eased some of the tension. "Not right now, but I was thinking maybe we could do something special, like a fancy night out. Dinner at a restaurant, dancing like old times. Just you and me, no phones, no work emails. Travis raised an eyebrow, intrigued. Sounds like a plan. Where are we going? That Italian restaurant where you spilled wine on your dress? Oh, don't remind me. Madison rolled her eyes, but her smile widened. No, I want something new. Maybe that seafood place downtown? Ocean Grove? I heard they have live music on Fridays. It's a bit pricey, but for you, why not? Travis took her hand and squeezed it. And the dancing? You know I dance like a drunk bear. That's what makes you charming, she teased, poking him in the ribs. But I know a place. Lauren's having a party at her bar on Friday. She said there's a new DJ and everyone's dancing until the early hours. The mention of Lauren made Travis tense up a little. Lauren Kane, Madison's best friend, had always been a mystery to him. He and Lauren had dated in college before he met Madison. Their romance had been brief but intense, and though Lauren had never said so outright, Travis sensed that she hadn't quite let go of the past. Now she owned a trendy cocktail bar called Midnight Mix and was a part of their lives, but her cool looks sometimes made him feel out of place. Lauren then, he said carefully, are you sure she won't give us a cocktail quiz? Last time she made me try some green drink that nearly made me choke. Madison giggled, leaning back against the pillows. He looked at her, feeling her enthusiasm contagious. Madison always had a way of getting him out of his comfort zone. And damn, she was right, they needed to change something. Okay, he said, raising his hands in a mock surrender. You win. Ocean Grove, dancing at Lauren's, and I'll even wear that blue shirt you like. Yay! Madison threw herself at his neck, hugging him so tightly that he laughed. You won't regret it, I promise. She pulled away, grabbed her phone, and started typing, her fingers flickering across the screen. Who are you writing to? Travis asked, looking over her shoulder. Lauren, she replied without looking up. Travis nodded, but a slight worry stirred in his chest. Lauren was a master at throwing parties, but her ideas were sometimes too unpredictable. He pushed the thought away, deciding he was just tired. Okay, I'm for dinner, he said, standing up. Pizza or your famous tacos? Tacos, but only if you don't burn the meat like last time, Madison teased, her eyes glued to her phone again. It was an experiment, Travis protested, heading for the stairs. Call it creative cuisine. Call it Cole, she called after him, her laughter echoing through the house. In the kitchen, Travis turned on the stove, pulled out the ground beef, and began chopping onions, humming an old Nirvana song. He felt lighter than he had all day. Talking to Madison reminded him of why he had fallen in love with her energy, her ability to see opportunity where he had only seen routine. The plan for the evening sounded perfect. Dinner, dancing, the sparks between him and Madison. What could possibly go wrong? He threw the meat into the pan, and the sizzling sound filled the kitchen. At that moment, Madison came downstairs, now wearing a soft gray sweater, her hair loose. She hugged him from behind, pressing her cheek against his back. Thank you for agreeing, she said quietly. It means a lot to me. Travis turned, hugged her, and kissed her forehead. For us, Mad. We can handle it. She nodded, smiling, and reached for a bottle of wine from the cabinet. Shall we open it? She asked, holding up a bottle of Cabernet. Only if you don't spill it, like that time in the restaurant, he teased. It wasn't me, it was the table that was crooked. She was indignant, but her eyes were laughing. They clinked glasses, and over dinner the conversation drifted to small details. Her new ad campaign, his grumpy boss, their weekend plans. But there was anticipation in the air. The evening they had planned promised to be more than just a date. It was a chance to reclaim what they had almost lost. As they were clearing away the dishes, Madison suddenly stopped, holding a plate. You know, I really believe that this evening will help us remember, she said, looking into his eyes. We will be us again. Travis nodded, feeling warmth in his chest. We will, he promised. Now go to bed before I make you wash the frying pan. She laughed, kissed him on the cheek, and ran upstairs, leaving him with a smile. It was a cloudy Friday morning in Seattle, with low gray clouds clinging to the skyscrapers. Madison parked her white hatchback outside Midnight Mix, a cocktail bar in the Belltown neighborhood where her friend Lauren Kane reigned supreme. The clock on the dashboard read 10:23, and the bar was still closed to customers, but Lauren had agreed to meet early to discuss plans for the evening. Madison adjusted her sunglasses, grabbed her purse, and glanced in the rearview mirror before applying pink lipstick. She felt energized. Her conversation with Travis the night before had sparked hope in her, and now she was determined to make tomorrow a memorable night. The sign for Midnight Mix glowed faintly in neon, despite the time of day. Madison pushed open the heavy glass door, and the chime of the bell above the door echoed throughout the empty space. The place smelled of citrusy cleanser and the faint scent of mint from last night's cocktails. The bar was stylish: black leather couches, a marble counter with gold accents, shelves of bottles illuminated by blue LEDs. Behind the counter, Lauren, wearing a black turtleneck and jeans, was polishing glasses, her dark brown hair pulled back into a high ponytail. Mad, Lauren looked up and smiled widely, putting the rag down. "You're as on time as a Swiss watch." "I try," Madison said, pulling off her glasses and hanging them on the collar of her sweater. She walked to the counter and plopped down on a high bar stool. "Thanks for taking the time. I know you're always busy here." Lauren waved her hand, her gold bracelets jingling. "For you, always. Coffee? I just made an espresso. Or," she winked, "I can mix you with something more interesting." 10 in the morning? Madison laughed, shaking her head. "Give me some coffee. I have to be at the office in an hour, and with your cocktails, I'll start dancing on the table." "You ruined the whole plot," Lauren sighed, sighing, turning to the coffee machine. She poured espresso into 2 tiny white cups and set one in front of Madison. "So tell me, what's the big plan? You wrote yesterday that you wanted to shake up your marriage. Sounds like the beginning of a rom-com." Madison wrapped her fingers around the cup, feeling the warmth. She took a sip, savoring the bitter taste, and looked at Lauren. "Well, sort of. Travis and I. Well, everything's become too predictable. Work, home, dinner, sleep. I love him, I really do, but—" She hesitated, searching for the words. "I want us to feel alive again. Like before, when we could talk half the night or sneak out to a concert without planning." Lauren leaned against the counter, crossing her arms, her green eyes searching Madison, but her smile remained warm. "I understand. 7 years of marriage is no joke. Every couple has a slump like that." She paused, twisting the ring on her finger. "So what did you come up with? A candlelit dinner? Or something bolder?" "Dinner, for starters," Madison said, perking up. "We've got reservations at Ocean Grove for tomorrow. There's live music, and I can already picture us dancing. And then, I thought maybe we could come over to your place. You mentioned a party on Saturday. New DJ, lots of people, dancing until the early hours." Lauren raised an eyebrow, her smile widening. "Oh, you want to really rock out? I love that. Yeah, it's gonna be a blast. DJ from LA, all my best cocktails, and I've already booked a light show." She leaned closer, lowering her voice. "And if you want, I can do something special for you and Travis. You know, to really make the night unforgettable." Madison frowned, not quite understanding. "What do you mean? Like a VIP table?" "Better," Lauren straightened up, her tone becoming conspiratorial. "I can make you a cocktail that will, let's say, put you both in the mood. Something that will make you forget about work and just enjoy each other." Madison hesitated. Lauren had always been famous for her cocktails, and her bar was known for its unusual recipes, but something in her tone made her slightly uneasy. She dismissed the thought, deciding that she was just overexcited. "That sounds fun," she said with a smile. "But nothing too wild, okay? I want Travis and I to be on the same page, not have him complaining that I got him drunk, and he couldn't do his marital duties." Lauren laughed, but her laugh was a little sharper than usual. "Don't worry, Mad. I know what I'm doing. This will be just the thing to get the sparks going. She paused, looking at Madison with a slight squint. You're lucky, you know. Travis is a good guy. Dependable, caring. You don't meet someone like that every day. Madison nodded, feeling warmth from her words. Yes, he is the best. Sometimes I myself don't believe that he chose me. Lauren turned back to the shelf, pretending to straighten the bottles, but her fingers trembled slightly. Well, let's just say you're luckier than some, she said quietly, almost in a whisper. Sometimes I think I could fight for a man like that, but alas. Madison froze, cup to lips. She knew Lauren and Travis had dated in college before she came into their lives. Lauren had never said it outright, and Madison had tried not to bring it up, but moments like this made her feel awkward. She cleared her throat, deciding to change the subject. Hey, let's talk about the party. What's your dress code? I'm already thinking about a new dress. Maybe a black one with a cutout. Travis will go crazy. Lauren turned around, her face welcoming again, as if nothing had happened. A black dress is always a safe bet. And Travis? Oh, he'll love it. She winked. I'll reserve you a table by the dance floor. And the cocktails, I promise, will be top-notch. You're a genius, Madison said, finishing her coffee. Listen, I have to run. We have a presentation at the office in 40 minutes. But I'll text you if anything changes, okay? Sure. Lauren came around the counter and hugged her. The hug was warm, but Madison felt like Lauren's fingers tightened a little on her shoulders. See you tomorrow, Mad. It's going to be a night you won't forget. Madison smiled, grabbed her bag, and headed for the door. The bell rang again as she stepped outside, where a light rain was already coating the asphalt in a shiny film. She got into her car, turned on the radio, and drove to the office, humming along to a pop tune. Thoughts of tomorrow night swirled in her head. Dinner, dancing, Travis in that blue shirt she adored. Everything was going perfectly. Lauren was alone at the bar. She went back to the counter, picked up her phone, and pulled up an old photo of her and Travis, both students, laughing at some festival. Her smile was gone, replaced by a cold determination. She swiped the photo away and texted her bartender, Noah, "Party tomorrow. Be ready for a special order, and don't let me down." After sending the text, she tossed the phone on the counter. Madison stopped at a stoplight and sent Travis a text. Just saw Lauren. She's going to make our night epic. Love you. She smiled, imagining his reaction, and stepped on the gas when the light turned green. Saturday morning in Seattle greeted Travis with bright sunshine breaking through wispy clouds. He was behind the wheel of his blue pickup truck, speeding down I-5 toward downtown, where he'd arranged to meet Madison. The clock on the dashboard read 9:37, and the radio was playing a rock ballad softly. Today was their day dinner at Ocean Grove, dancing at Lauren's bar, a chance to rekindle the spark in their 7-year marriage. Travis, usually immersed in blueprints and deadlines, felt energized in a way he hadn't felt in months. Madison insisted that he join her at Pacific Place Mall. She wanted to find a dress for the evening and get him into some romance at the same time. Travis, though he grumbled that shopping wasn't his thing, was secretly pleased by her enthusiasm. He pulled into the parking lot, spotting Madison's white hatchback parked at the entrance. She stood next to him, in jeans and a green jacket, scrolling through her phone, her blonde hair glistening in the sun. "A full 3 minutes late, Clark," she said, looking up as he got out of the car. Her smile was playful, but there was impatience in her voice. "I'm ready to hit the stores." "Sorry, traffic jam on the exit." Travis raised his hands in surrender. "But I'm here, ready to carry your bags. Or should I just stand there and admire?" Madison giggled, poking him in the side. "Admiring is a must, but bags are also useful." She took his arm, and they headed toward the glass doors of the center. "I want to find a black dress. Something with a neckline, so you forget how to talk." Travis whistled as he opened the door. "Black dress? Mad, are you sure you want me to survive until the end of the evening?" "That's questionable," she winked, stepping into the buzzing mall. The fountain in the center was babbling, shoppers were milling about, and the air smelled of coffee and freshly baked pretzels. They entered Nordstrom, where Madison headed straight for the dress rack. Travis, feeling a little out of place among the shiny fabrics, leaned against a column, watching her rummage through the hangers. This, Madison held up the dress, dark blue, with long sleeves. Or is it too formal? Strict? Travis shook his head. Mad, you'd look like a model in a potato sack. But you wanted black. Where is it? She rolled her eyes but smiled. Patience, engineer. I haven't found the perfect one yet. She hung the dress back up and pulled out another one, a black, form-fitting one with a deep V-neck. Oh, that one. I'll try it on. I'm looking forward to the show, Travis said, crossing his arms. But if anything happens, I'm prepared to call an ambulance for myself. Madison snorted and disappeared into the dressing room. Travis pulled out his phone to check his email, but stopped. He had promised Madison he would be here with her today, without work. He put his phone away and looked at the display case, thinking how long it had been since he had done anything special for her. The last time he had gotten her flowers was on their anniversary, almost a year ago. That had to be fixed. Madison stepped out of the dressing room and Travis froze. The dress hugged her figure, highlighting her tiny waist and long legs, and the neckline revealed just enough to make his heart beat faster. Well, she asked, turning around. Still alive? Barely, he breathed, stepping closer. Mad, you're... Shit, it's illegal to look like that. She laughed, her cheeks turning pink. So, are we taking it? She adjusted her hem, looking at him with a sly smile. We'll take it, Travis nodded. But I'll need security to fight off your fans in the restaurant. Okay, Madison said, heading back into the cabin to change. What about you? Will you wear that blue shirt? I love it. Already in the plan, he replied, feeling her enthusiasm becoming infectious. Just don't laugh if I start dancing like a robot. That's what makes you cute, she called from behind the curtain. While Madison was paying for the dress, Travis quietly wandered over to the jewelry section nearby. He spotted a small silver bracelet with a star charm. Madison loved little things like that. Not flowers, but it'll do, he thought as he bought it. He decided to give it to her later, before dinner, to surprise her. They left the mall with the bag containing the dress, and Madison suggested they stop at the corner cafe for a bite to eat. Bean and Bite was cozy, with wooden tables and the smell of freshly brewed coffee. They grabbed lattes and avocado sandwiches, sitting by the window overlooking the busy street. Okay, Madison said, taking a bite of her sandwich. Let's talk about tonight. Ocean Grove at 7, then Lauren's at the bar. Are you ready to dance until the morning? Travis winced, but his eyes were laughing. Dance? Mad, you know I have 2 left feet. Maybe I should just stand there and look cool. No way, she poked him with a straw. I want us to have fun, like that concert when you were jumping to Coldplay. I didn't jump, I swung, he said indignantly. And that was only because you made me. Madison rolled her eyes, but her smile was warm. You were charming, and you'll be there tomorrow too. She paused, looking at him more seriously. Travis, I really want tonight to be special. I think we need to remind each other why we fell in love. Travis put down his sandwich, feeling her words tug at something inside him. He knew their marriage had become routine work, bills, exhaustion. But he loved Madison, her laugh, her habit of humming in the car, her way of making every day a little brighter. Her words about being in love reminded him how much he wanted that feeling back. I want that too, he said, looking into her eyes. You know, sometimes I get so tired from work that I forget to show how important you are to me. But you are important, Mad, more than anything. She squeezed his hand across the table, her fingers warm. You show, she said quietly. It's just, we lack passion. The kind we had when we could talk half the night or kiss in the car in the rain. Travis chuckled as he remembered. Yeah, that time when we were soaking wet and you still looked like you were on the cover of a magazine. Flatterer, Madison kicked him under the table, but her cheeks turned pink. "But I'm serious. Tomorrow is our chance. I want us to feel alive again." "Deal," Travis nodded. "But if I step on your foot, don't file for divorce." "We'll see," she winked, finishing her latte. "Now let's go home. I need to figure out how to do my hair, and you need to practice your dance steps." On the way home, they stopped at a flower stand at Pike Place Market. Travis, remembering Madison's request, insisted that she stay in the car. "It's a surprise," he said as he walked out. "Sit still and don't peek." "Are you serious?" Madison laughed, but stayed in the truck, turning on the radio. The market was noisy. Vendors were shouting prices, tourists were taking pictures of fish stalls. Travis approached a kiosk where an elderly woman in a bright headscarf was laying out bouquets. "Do you have any yellow tulips?" he asked, remembering Madison's favorite flowers. "Of course," the woman nodded, choosing a fresh bouquet. "For your wife?" "Yeah," Travis smiled. "I want to make her happy." "A good husband," she said, wrapping the flowers in craft paper. "Men like that are worth their weight in gold." Travis walked back to the car, hiding the bouquet behind his back. Madison narrowed her eyes at him. "What do you have there?" she asked as he got behind the wheel. "Patience," he winked, handing her the tulips. "For the most beautiful girl in Seattle." Madison gasped, clutching the bouquet to her chest. "Travis, you remembered the tulips." She leaned over and kissed him on the cheek. "You're the best." "I try," he said, starting the engine. "But the dress is still beyond competition." She laughed, inhaling the scent of the flowers. "You haven't seen me in it yet. Tomorrow you'll be begging for mercy." "I'm already scared," he teased, driving out onto the road. At home, they split up, Madison in the bathroom to try out a hairdo, and Travis pressing his blue shirt. Standing in the living room with the iron, he thought about Madison, her smile at the coffee shop, her words about passion. He was no master of romance, but today he felt like he could be the man she wanted. The bracelet tucked into his jacket pocket was another step. Madison came downstairs, her hair in loose curls. "How do you like it?" she asked, turning around. "You look like you just walked the red carpet," Travis said, putting down his iron. "Mad, I'm serious. You're going to outshine me tomorrow." "That's the plan," she winked, coming over. "But you'll be a star, too. In that shirt. I'm already waiting." They stood close, and Travis suddenly felt a rush he hadn't felt in a long time. He put his arms around her, pulling her close. "You know I love you," he said quietly. "And I want you to know tomorrow you are everything to me." Madison looked at him, her eyes shining. "I love you too," she whispered. "And tomorrow we'll get back everything we lost. I promise." They kissed, briefly but with a warmth that reminded them of their first days. Madison pulled away, smiling. "Okay, don't distract me. I still have to do my manicure." "It looks like I'm going to have to learn how to dance," Travis sighed, but his smile was wider than ever. The rest of the day was a flurry of activity, Madison choosing shoes, Travis checking restaurant reservations. But there was hope in every glance, every casual touch. Travis, wearing the blue shirt Madison loved, parked his truck outside the Ocean Grove restaurant downtown. The clock on the dashboard read 6:52 p.m., and he nervously adjusted his collar, glancing at Madison. She was sitting next to him, wearing a low-cut black dress, her blonde hair in soft curls, her eyes glittering with anticipation. Travis couldn't look away. She looked like she'd stepped off the cover of a magazine, and his heart was beating a little faster than usual. "Ready to conquer the restaurant?" he asked, turning off the engine and smiling. Madison adjusted her earrings and turned to face him, a sly smile touching her lips. "The question is, are you ready to survive this evening? I warned you about the dress." "Oh, I'm on the edge," Travis winked as he stepped out of the car. He walked around the truck, opened her door, and offered her his hand. "Ma'am, your escort has arrived." Madison laughed, taking his hand and stepping out gracefully, her heels clicking on the pavement as she gave his fingers a light squeeze. "You're a gentleman today." This dress works wonders. It's not the dress, it's you, he said quietly, and her cheeks turned slightly pink. They walked into Ocean Grove, and Travis immediately felt like he was in another world. The restaurant was elegant. Crystal chandeliers cast a warm glow on white tablecloths, seascape paintings adorned the walls, and picture windows overlooked the bay where the lights of yachts twinkled. Live music, soft piano, and violin chords wafted from a corner where a trio in tuxedos was playing jazz. A waiter in a black vest showed them to a table by the window, and Travis pulled out a chair for Madison. "Well," she said, sitting up and smoothing her dress, "this is officially our most chic evening in." "What? 2 years?" "At least," Travis nodded, sitting down opposite her. He took the menu, but his gaze kept returning to her. "Although, to be honest, you make any evening chic." Madison raised an eyebrow, her smile becoming slightly flirtatious. "Careful, Clark. Any more compliments, and I'll demand that you dance with me all evening." "I'm willing to take the risk," he replied, and they both laughed. The waiter brought water with lemon and offered wine. Madison chose a white Sauvignon Blanc, and Travis, who usually preferred beer, agreed. "I trust your taste today," he said when the waiter left. "But if the wine is sour, I will not forgive you." "It's going to be perfect," Madison assured, leaning in a little closer. "Just like this evening. Just look at this place. I feel like we're in a movie." Travis looked around the room. Couples at nearby tables were talking quietly, waiters were bustling about with trays, and the music was creating a cozy atmosphere. He suddenly realized how long it had been since they had been out like this, just the two of them, without the pressure of work hanging over their heads. "You're right," he said. "We deserved it. And I'm glad you pulled me out." Madison smiled, her fingers brushing his hand on the table. "Me too. Thank you for agreeing. It's important to me." Their eyes met, and for a second the world around them disappeared, just them, their breath, their warmth. The waiter broke the moment by bringing wine and taking their orders. Salmon with lemon sauce for Madison, crab cake for Travis, and shrimp salad for two. As the wine was poured into the glasses, Travis raised his. "For us," he said simply, looking into her eyes. "To us," Madison echoed, their glasses clinking in the light from the chandelier. They drank, laughed, and tried the food, which was so delicious that Madison even moaned with pleasure as she bit into a piece of salmon. "Travis, this is divine," she said, closing her eyes. "Why don't we come here every week?" "Because our budget would say goodbye to us," he chuckled, but immediately added, "Although for the sake of your smile, I'm ready to mortgage my house." "Oh, you're in good spirits today," she teased, sipping her wine. "See, I can get used to that kind of talk." "Get used to it," he replied, his tone unexpectedly serious. "I want you to smile like that all the time." Madison looked at him, her gaze softening. She put down her fork and leaned closer. "You always know what to say to make me feel special. But—" She hesitated, fiddling with her napkin. "Sometimes I'm afraid we're losing it. That connection we had. I don't want us to just be life mates." Travis felt a pang in his chest. He knew she was right, their marriage, while strong, had become too comfortable, lacking the spark that had burned in the early years. He took her hand, lacing their fingers together. "We won't," he said firmly. "I love you mad, and I'm willing to work on this. Today is just the beginning." She squeezed his hand, her eyes shining, not with tears, but with hope. "I love you too," she whispered, "and I believe we can get it all back. That feeling when you can't wait to see each other again." Travis smiled, feeling the warmth of her words ignite within him. "Then let's start right now," he said, nodding toward the small dance floor, where several couples were already swaying to the slow melody of a violin. "Shall we dance?" Madison gasped, her face lighting up. "Are you serious? You, Mr. I dance like a robot, are offering a dance? Just don't laugh," he warned, standing up and holding out his hand. "And if I step on your foot, it's not my fault." She laughed, standing up and straightening her dress. "I'm willing to take the risk," she said. taking his hand. They walked out onto the dance floor, and Travis wrapped his arms around her waist, feeling her hands on his shoulders. The music was soft, with smooth chords, and they began to move, a little awkwardly, but with smiles. Madison pressed herself closer, her cheek brushing his, and Travis inhaled her scent, a mixture of perfume and something elusively hers. "You're not so bad," she whispered as they turned another corner. "That's because you're leading," he replied, and she giggled into his shoulder. They danced, oblivious to the other couples, the restaurant, the time. Travis felt her warmth, her breath, taking him back to the days when they were just two people in love, ready to do anything for each other. When the song ended, they stopped, but they held each other. "Can I say something?" Madison asked quietly, looking into his eyes. "Whatever you want," he replied without looking away. "I've always dreamed of you and me going on a trip. Just taking a car and driving along the coast, Oregon, California, stopping in little towns, walking on the beaches." Her voice was full of dreaminess. "We've never done it, but I want to have an adventure like that." Travis felt her dream light a spark in him. He imagined the two of them racing down the highway, laughing, holding hands. "Then we'll do it," he said, his voice full of confidence. "I promise, Mad. After this project at work, I'll take some time off and we'll go. Just you, me, and the road." Her eyes lit up and she stood on her toes, kissing him. The kiss was soft but deep, full of promise and unspoken feelings. When they pulled away, Madison smiled, her fingers still on his neck. "You know how to make me happy," she said. "I'm studying," he replied, and they laughed as they walked back to the table. The rest of the dinner passed in a haze. They tried dessert chocolate fondant with raspberry sauce, shared a fork, joked about how Travis almost dropped his glass, and planned towns to visit on their next trip. Madison suggested Cannon Beach to see the famous Haystack Rock, and Travis insisted on a winery in Napa. "You just want to get drunk on wine," she teased, finishing her glass. "I want to get drunk on you," he replied, and she rolled her eyes, but her smile was wider than ever. When they left the restaurant, the night was chilly and Travis threw on his jacket over Madison's shoulders. They stood by the car, not rushing to get in, looking out at the lights of the bay. "This was the best night I've had in a long time," Madison said, snuggling into him. "Thank you, Travis." "This is just the beginning," he replied, hugging her. "We still have dancing at Lauren's, ready to let loose." "With you, always," she said, and they kissed again under the stars. The Seattle night in Belltown was buzzing with energy as Travis and Madison pulled up to Midnight Mix. The neon sign cast blue light on the damp pavement, and a rhythmic beat blared from the doors. The clock on the dashboard of Travis's truck read 9:16 p.m., and the street was buzzing with laughter, the clink of bottles, and footsteps heading into bars. Madison, in a low-cut black dress, was touching up her lipstick, her eyes bright from a romantic dinner at Ocean Grove. "Ready to hit the dance floor?" Travis asked, turning off the engine. His blue shirt was slightly unbuttoned, and he looked relaxed but still captivated by the sight of her. Madison turned, her smile playful. "Light it. I'm going to start a fire. And you? You won't run away when I start dancing." "Run away from you?" he chuckled, opening the door. "Mad, I'm not that stupid. But if I trip, don't film it." "No guarantees," she winked as she stepped out of the car. Her heels clicked on the sidewalk, and she took his arm. "Come on, Lauren promised us a table right by the dance floor." They walked to the entrance, where a bouncer in a black jacket was lazily checking ID. The music pulsating house with heavy bass wafted out, and Travis felt the energy of the evening wash over him. Dinner had been perfect, but Madison wanted to move, and he was willing to play along, even if the dancing was a challenge. Inside, Midnight Mix was an explosion of color and sound. The dance floor sparkled under rotating lights. A DJ at the decks pumped up the crowd, and the bar, illuminated by blue LEDs, buzzed with orders. The smell of lime and mint from the cocktails mingled with the perfume and heat of the dancers. Lauren, in a tight red dress, spotted them from the bar and waved, her dark hair glistening in the lights. "Mad! Travis!" she called over the music. pointing to a table at the edge of the dance floor. "Your place is ready." Madison pulled Travis through the crowd, her dress catching the light. "This is going to be epic," she said, looking around the room. "Lauren knows how to throw a party." Travis nodded, following her. The bar was packed, couples twirling on the dance floor, friends laughing with drinks, singles leaning against the walls. He spotted the bartender behind the counter, a tall guy with tattoos on his arms and a slight smirk, juggling a cocktail shaker to entertain the crowd. This was probably the Noah Lauren had mentioned. They sat down at a table and Lauren came over carrying two cocktails, bright pink, with lime wedges on the rim of the glasses. "My gift," she said, setting down the drinks. Her smile was warm, but the look she gave Madison was sharp, almost calculating. "A new recipe just for you. It'll get you pumped up for dancing." Madison took the glass, her eyes lighting up. "Lauren, you're a magician. Is that the raspberry one?" she asked, inhaling the scent. "Raspberry and a little secret," Lauren replied, her tone playful, but with a hint of amusement. "So you can relax and enjoy yourself. Drink up, Mad, you'll like it." Travis took his drink but squinted. "A secret?" he asked, swirling his glass. "Does that mean I'm going to be dancing in the street in my socks tomorrow?" Lauren laughed, her bracelets jingling. "Don't be afraid, Travis. Just a little magic to set the mood. Relax, you're not on a construction site." Madison took a sip and gasped. "This is fire. Sweet, but with a hint of sourness." "Travis, try it." He took a sip, tasting the fruity, slightly bitter taste. It was delicious, but he decided to limit himself to just one. The wine from dinner was still making itself felt. Madison drank enthusiastically, swaying her shoulders to the music. "Lauren, you're a genius," she said, finishing her drink. "Shall we go dancing? I'm already on edge." Travis opened his mouth to agree, but Lauren suddenly turned to him, her hand touching his shoulder. "Travis, I need your help," she said, her voice soft but urgent. "We've got a technical emergency. One of the floodlights is malfunctioning, and you know about these things. Will you take a look? It'll only take a few minutes." Travis frowned as he looked at Madison, who was already standing up. "A spotlight?" he asked. "Lauren, I'm here with Madison. Maybe your tech can figure it out?" "The tech is off," Lauren said quickly, her eyes widening in pleading. "Please, Travis, you'll help me out. If the power goes out, the party's over. Mad, you don't mind, do you?" Madison, who had finished her cocktail, waved, her smile wider than usual. "Go save the party, Travis," she said, her voice light, almost playful. "I'll warm up the dance floor. Come back and we'll dance." 2 minutes, Lauren promised, her tone convincing. "I'll watch Mad." Travis stood up reluctantly, glancing at Madison. "Okay, but I'll be quick," he said. "Don't start without me." "I'll try," she winked, heading towards the dance floor. Lauren led Travis to the utility area behind the DJ booth, where the lights hung. She pointed out one that was supposedly blinking, but in fact, it was working fine. Lauren had deliberately created a problem, knowing that Travis, with his engineering mind, would be eager to help, especially if she played on his sense of responsibility. She babbled about overheating wiring and risk of failure, stalling and asking questions about his work to stall him. "Are you sure it's not a wire?" she asked, pointing to the cable, which looked perfect. "I don't want everything to go out in the middle of a set." Travis, standing on the stepladder that Lauren had helpfully dragged up, checked the fastenings. "It's okay," he said, descending. "Lauren, it's not the equipment, it's your DJ boyfriend. He's probably confusing the buttons." She laughed, but her eyes were fixed on the dance floor where her plan was unfolding. On the dance floor, Madison moved to the beat, her dress sparkling under the lights, her movements becoming looser. The special ingredient in the cocktail Lauren had added was taking effect, removing her usual restraint, heightening her emotions. She was spinning, laughing, her hair flying, and she was attracting glances without even realizing it. Noah, the bartender with tattoos and a slight smirk, noticed her from the bar. He exchanged a glance with Lauren, who nodded and left his spot, making his way to the dance floor. Noah, 28, was a master of charm tall, with dark bangs that fell over his eyes and an eagle tattoo on his forearm. His smile could disarm, but behind it was a willingness to scheme, especially if Lauren, his boss, hinted at fun. He knew Madison was Lauren's friend, but her instructions were clear. Play along, engage, see how far the game would go. "Hey, it's like you were born on the dance floor," Noah said, walking up to Madison and leaning in to shout over the music. His voice was low, with a slight rasp. Madison turned around, her cheeks flushed and her eyes shining. "Really?" she giggled, still moving. "The music's just cool. I'm Madison, by the way." "Noah," he replied, smiling wider. "Want to add some heat? Show me what you can do." "Oh, challenge accepted," she said, her voice louder than it needed to be, her laugh a little too harsh. She raised her arms, twirling to the beat, and Noah played along, staying close but not going overboard. Madison didn't see anything wrong with it, just dancing, having fun. But her usual caution was fading, and Noah was too close, his hand lightly touching her waist, guiding her movements. She was laughing, her body moving more freely than usual, and she didn't notice how his gaze had grown bolder. Lauren stood at the counter, watching, sipping her water. A cold smile curled her lips. The plan was working perfectly. Madison, uninhibited by the cocktail, was the center of attention, while Travis fiddled with a non-existent malfunction. She had deliberately chosen a technical problem, knowing that Travis, with his engineering approach, would not be able to simply brush it aside. Her control over the situation was complete, and she was enjoying every moment as she watched Madison spiral deeper into the vortex. "Good boy, Noah," she muttered, watching him lean closer to Madison. On the dance floor, Madison felt a slight warmth in her chest. Her laughter grew louder, her movements bolder. She looked at Noah, his face close, his smile so attractive. "Do you always dance like this?" he asked, his voice almost intimate despite the noise. "Only when the mood is right," she replied, her words sounding slightly out of place. "And you? You seem to be a local star." "Go higher," Noah winked, his hand touching her back again, and Madison, without thinking, played along, twirling in the dance. In the service area, Travis stepped down from the stepladder, wiping his hands on his jeans. "Lauren, everything is fine here," he said, his tone irritated. "I'm going back to Madison. If anything else breaks, call your DJ." "Thank you, you saved me," Lauren said, her smile too sweet. "Come on, I'll buy you another cocktail." Travis shook his head, feeling like he was wasting his time. "I just want to find a wife," he said, heading into the hall. Lauren followed him, but her eyes were glued to the dance floor, where Noah and Madison were dancing closer and closer. Midnight Mix in Belltown was a hive of light, sound, and movement. The dance floor sparkled under colored lights, a DJ pumped out bass-heavy house, and the air was thick with the scent of lime cocktails and perfume. Madison, in a low-cut black dress, danced with Noah, her moves bolder than usual, her laughter louder. The special ingredient Lauren had added to her drink was taking away her inhibitions, heightening her emotions, and she didn't notice her usual caution melting into the rhythm. Travis, sitting at a table near the dance floor, watched her with a smile, but a slight worry stirred in his chest. Madison had clearly had too many drinks, her eyes were too bright, her movements were a little uneven. "She's doing great," Travis said, turning to Lauren, who stood next to him, sipping her water. "But I think she's done for today. Will you keep an eye on her if I go away?" Lauren nodded, her smile warm, but her eyes gleaming coldly. "Of course, Travis. Don't worry, I won't let her do anything," she replied, her tone almost caring. "Where are you going?" "I want to check the car," he said, standing up. "The parking lot is dark here, and I saw someone wandering around. I don't want any surprises." "Go ahead, I'll take care of Mad," Lauren assured him, placing her hand on his shoulder. "When you come back, she'll be fine." Travis nodded, glancing at Madison, who was twirling around with Noah, laughing at something he said. Mad, I'll be right there, he called, but the music drowned out his words. He turned to Lauren. If she starts singing in the bar, stop her, okay? I promise, Lauren giggled, but her eyes were glued to the dance floor, where Madison was dancing closer and closer to Noah. Travis made his way through the crowd to the exit, unaware that Lauren had already given Noah a signal, a slight nod that he caught as he tossed a rag onto the bar. As soon as Travis had disappeared through the door, Lauren walked to the dance floor, her red dress flashing in the spotlight. In the parking lot, Travis headed toward his truck, which was parked in the shade at the edge of the street. The clock said 9:38 p.m., and the street was busy laughter, footsteps, doors slamming. He was almost to his car when the shrill sound of his alarm made him quicken his pace. His truck was flashing its lights, and next to it was an old sedan that had apparently clipped his bumper trying to get out. The driver, a guy in a baseball cap, leaned out the window, muttering an apology. "Dude, sorry, didn't notice," he shouted, his voice slightly slurred. "I just barely missed, no big deal." Travis clenched his fists as he examined the bumper. It was a small scratch, but the truck was his pride and joy, and he wasn't about to let it slide. "Just a little hit," he asked again, coming closer. "You crashed into my car. Get out, we'll sort this out." The guy raised his hands, clearly not wanting a fight. "Look, I'll pay for the scratch. Let's not have any drama, okay?" Travis began to argue, demanding insurance, while the guy rummaged through the glove compartment, trying to find documents. The situation dragged on, and Travis, although he wanted to go back to Madison, could not just walk away, leaving the car with damage. At the bar, Madison danced with Noah, her movements becoming more and more relaxed. Noah, a 28-year-old bartender with an eagle tattoo on his forearm and a slight smirk, stayed close, his hand occasionally brushing her waist. Lauren, standing at the edge of the dance floor, watched, her lips curling into a cold smile. She motioned to Noah, gesturing with her eyes toward the service door behind the bar. Noah nodded, his smile growing wider. "Hey, Madison, it's hot in here," he said, leaning into her ear to be heard over the music. "Want a sip of water? I have some in the back where it's quieter." Madison, her cheeks flushed and her eyes shining, giggled. "Water? Are you giving up already?" Her voice was a little hoarse, and her laughter was louder than usual. The special ingredient in the cocktail that Lauren had mixed in had robbed her of her usual caution, and she was feeling on a roll. "Give up?" Noah raised an eyebrow, his tone playful. "I just want you to last until the end of the night. Come on, it'll only be a few seconds." "Okay, but make it quick," she said, following him, her gait a little unsteady. She didn't think it was odd Noah seemed cheerful, and the bar was full of people. It was just water, nothing special. Noah led her through the crowd to a backroom door behind the bar that Lauren had left ajar. The back room was cramped, with boxes of bottles, an old couch, and a dim lamp. Once the door closed, drowning out the music, Noah turned to Madison, his smile growing bolder. "Here you go," he said, holding out a bottle of water, but his gaze slid down her dress, lingering on the neckline. Madison took a sip, but her movements were sluggish, her thoughts foggy. She felt warm, lightheaded, and Noah, standing too close, seemed attractive. Her control was gone under the influence of the drink, and when Noah stepped closer, touching her hand, she didn't pull away. "You're really the star of the evening," he said, his voice low, almost a whisper. "Want to make the night even more interesting?" Madison giggled, her eyes shining but lacking their usual clarity. "More interesting?" she asked again, her words sounding out of place. "What are you suggesting?" Noah didn't respond with words. He leaned down, his lips brushing her neck, and Madison, instead of pushing him away, responded, her hands on his shoulders. It all happened quickly. The passion fueled by the cocktail overwhelmed her, and they sank to the couch, their clothes on the floor. Madison, out of control, was unaware of her actions, and Noah, an opportunist by nature, seized the moment, knowing Lauren would approve. Lauren, standing behind the door with the crack open, turned on the camera on her phone. She filmed, her face impassive, but inside she was jubilant. This was her blow-proof she could use to destroy Madison and get revenge for the past. She recorded a few seconds, enough to capture the betrayal, and quietly closed the door, walking back into the hall. In the parking lot, Travis finally exchanged contact information with the driver of the sedan, who promised to cover the repairs. The clock read 9:53 p.m., and he cursed under his breath, realizing he had been longer than he had planned. The scratch was minor, but he couldn't leave the car unattended. Hurrying back, he pushed through the crowd at the entrance, his eyes searching for Madison. At the bar, he found Lauren at the counter, chatting with some guy, but then she turned to him. "Travis, you're back," she said, her smile too bright. "Is the car okay?" "It's just a small thing. Someone hit the bumper," he replied, looking around the room. "Where's Madison? Is she still dancing?" Lauren shrugged, her tone casual. "She's gone to the ladies' room," she said, gesturing toward the hallway in the corner. "You know girls, they need their noses powdered. Want another drink while you wait?" Travis frowned, feeling a little uneasy. Madison didn't like being alone for long, especially in this state. "No, I'll find her," he said, heading toward the corridor. "Will she be there long?" "5 minutes tops," Lauren said, her voice calm, but she purposely stood between him and the dance floor, blocking his view. "Hey, how's your bridge project coming along? Mad mentioned you're hard at work." "Lauren, not now," Travis said, his eyes scanning the crowd. "I just want to find a wife." Of course," she said, stepping back, but her hand lightly touched his elbow. "If anything, I saw her go that way. Maybe there's a line for the toilet." Travis nodded, making his way to the hallway where the girls were milling about with drinks. He knocked on the door to the ladies' room, but there was no answer. His anxiety was growing, and he began checking other corners of the room, unaware that Madison was not in the restroom, but in the supply closet, where her life had just taken a fateful turn. Lauren returned to the counter, her fingers clutching the phone with the recorded video. She felt triumphant. Madison, her ex-friend who had stolen Travis, was now vulnerable, and Noah had played his part perfectly. She glanced at Noah, who emerged from the back room, adjusting his shirt, and winked at her. Lauren nodded, her smile cold as ice. The blow had been dealt, and she was already looking forward to using it to destroy everything Madison valued. Madison, still in the utility room, sat on the couch, her dress rumpled and her mind in a haze. She tried to process what had happened, but the cocktail had clouded her mind, leaving only a vague sense of guilt. Noah, already at the door, threw her a small smile. "Are you okay?" he asked, but his tone was indifferent. "Yeah, I guess," she muttered, her voice shaking. "I need to find Travis." "See you," Noah said as he walked out, leaving her alone. Madison adjusted her dress, her movements sluggish, and slowly walked towards the door, unaware that Lauren already held the weapon that would change her life. Midnight Mix in Belltown was in full swing on a Saturday night, pulsing with light and sound. The dance floor sparkled under colored lights, a DJ pumped out bass-heavy house music, and the air was thick with the scent of citrus cocktails and perfume. Madison, in a low-cut black dress, danced with Noah, her moves bold, her laughter louder than usual. The special ingredient Lauren had slipped into her drink was stripping away her inhibitions, heightening her emotions, and she didn't notice her caution slipping away. Travis, sitting at a table by the dance floor, smiled at her, but his anxiety was growing. Madison had clearly had too many drinks. Her eyes were too bright, her gait unsteady. "She's worked up," Travis said, turning to Lauren, who stood next to him holding a glass of water. "But she's had enough. Will you keep an eye on her while I check the car?" Lauren nodded, her smile warm, but there was a cold glint in her eyes. "Sure, Travis, don't worry," she replied, her tone almost caring. "I won't let her do anything stupid. What about the car?" "I saw someone hanging around near the parking lot," he said, standing up. "I want to make sure everything is okay. 5 minutes, tops." "Go ahead, I'll take care of Mad," Lauren assured him, lightly touching his shoulder. She's in good hands. Travis glanced at Madison, who was twirling around with Noah, laughing at his words. "Mad, I'll be right there," he called, but the music drowned him out. He turned to Lauren. "If she tries to climb the counter, stop her, okay?" "No problem," Lauren giggled, but her eyes were already glued to the dance floor, where Madison was dancing closer and closer to Noah. Travis made his way through the crowd toward the exit, unaware that Lauren had given Noah a signal, a subtle nod that he caught as he tossed a rag onto the counter. As soon as Travis had disappeared through the door, Lauren walked to the dance floor, her red dress flashing in the lights. In the parking lot, Travis headed toward his truck, which was parked in the shade at the edge of the street. The clock said 9:40 p.m., and the street was buzzing with laughter, doors slamming, footsteps. He was almost to his car when the shrill sound of his alarm made him speed up. His truck was flashing its lights, and next to it was an old Jeep that had clipped his bumper trying to get out. The driver, a guy in a hoodie, leaned out the window, waving his arms. "Hey man, I'm sorry," he shouted, his voice hoarse and tinged with alcohol. "Didn't notice, just a little snag." Travis examined the bumper. The scratch was small but noticeable. His truck was his pride and joy, and he wasn't about to let it slide. "Just a little?" he asked, approaching. "You crashed into my car. Get out, we'll sort this out." The guy raised his hands, clearly avoiding a fight. "No worries, I'll pay for the paint. Give me your phone, I'll write down your number." Travis began to argue, demanding insurance, while the guy dug through his pockets, muttering about forgotten documents. The situation dragged on, and Travis, although he wanted to get back to Madison, could not abandon the car with damage. At the bar, Madison danced with Noah, her movements growing bolder. Noah, a 28-year-old bartender with a wolf tattoo on his wrist and a slight smirk, stayed close, his hand brushing her waist. Lauren, standing at the edge of the dance floor, watched, her lips curling into a cold smile. She motioned to Noah, gesturing toward the service door behind the bar. Noah nodded, his smile growing confident. "It's hot in here, isn't it?" he said, leaning into Madison's ear to be heard over the music. "Want some water? I have some in the back room, it's quieter there." Madison, flushed and eyes shining, giggled. "Water? Are you exhausted already?" Her voice was hoarse, and her laughter was louder than usual. The special ingredient in the cocktail had robbed her of her restraint, and she was feeling on a high. Out of breath, Noah raised an eyebrow, his tone playful. "Just making sure you last. Come on, just a few seconds." "Okay, but no tricks," she said, following him, her gait a little unsteady. She didn't think it was odd Noah seemed cheerful. The bar was full of people. Just water, nothing special. Noah led her through the crowd to the back door, which Lauren had left ajar. The back room was cramped boxes of bottles, an old couch, a dim lamp. The door closed, drowning out the music, and Noah turned to Madison, his smile growing bolder. "Here, take this," he said, holding out a bottle of water, but his gaze lingered on her neckline. Madison took a sip, but her movements were sluggish, her thoughts foggy. The warmth in her chest was growing, and Noah, standing too close, seemed attractive. Under the influence of the cocktail, her control was gone, and when Noah stepped closer, touching her hand, she did not pull away. "You're a real star," he said, his voice low, almost a whisper. "Want to make this a night to remember?" Madison giggled, her eyes cloudy. "Unforgettable?" she asked, her words sounding out of place. "What do you mean?" Noah didn't respond. His lips brushed her neck, and Madison, instead of pushing him away, responded, her hands on his shoulders. Passion, fueled by the cocktail, washed over her, and they sank to the couch, their clothes on the floor. Madison, out of control, unaware of her actions, and Noah, an opportunist, seized the moment, knowing Lauren would approve. Lauren, standing outside the door, turned on the camera on her phone. She filmed through the crack, her face impassive, but inside she was triumphant. This was her blow proof to destroy Madison and avenge the past. After recording a few seconds, she closed the door and sent the video from an anonymous number to Travis's phone, knowing he would be back soon. In the parking lot, Travis finished talking to the Jeep driver, exchanging insurance numbers. His watch showed 9:58 p.m., and he cursed, realizing he was late. The scratch was minor, but he couldn't leave the car unattended. Hurrying back, he pushed through the crowd at the entrance, his eyes searching for Madison. At the bar, he found Lauren at the counter, chatting with a customer, but she immediately turned to him. "Travis, you're back," she said, her smile bright. "Is the car okay?" "Someone hit the bumper," he muttered, looking around the room. "Where's Madison? Is she still dancing?" Lauren shrugged, her tone casual. "She's gone to the ladies' room," she said, gesturing down the hallway. "You know, like girls, preening, want a cocktail while you wait." Travis frowned, worry growing. Madison didn't like being alone for long, especially in this state. "I'll find her," he said, heading toward the corridor. "Will she be there long?" "About 5 minutes," Lauren said, standing up to block her view of the dance floor. "Maybe there's a line. 'Hey, how's your project going? Mad said you were all into it.'" "Not now, Lauren," Travis said, but his phone vibrated. He pulled it out, expecting a text from Madison, but saw an anonymous number. He opened the video and froze. On the screen was Madison, in the back room with Noah, their clothes on the floor. The sound was muffled, but the image was clear. His heart sank, the blood rushing to his temples. "What the—" he muttered, his voice shaking. He looked up at Lauren, but she had already moved to the counter, pretending to be busy. Will Travis and Madison figure out that Lauren has been pulling the strings all along, destroying their marriage from the inside? Like if you believe that the truth comes out even in the dirtiest games, and subscribe so you don't miss out on the next exciting stories. Travis, shocked, rushed toward the hallway, but instead of the ladies' room, he headed for the service door behind the counter he'd noticed earlier. He pushed it open, and his worst fears were confirmed. Madison was sitting on the couch, her dress rumpled, her hair disheveled, her eyes cloudy. She looked lost, barely aware of where she was. Noah was gone, he'd slipped out a minute ago. "Madison," Travis said hoarsely, approaching. His voice was full of pain, but he kept his anger in check. "What? What have you done?" She looked up, her face confused. "Travis," she murmured, her voice shaking. I don't know. I feel bad." He saw her condition. She was not herself, barely holding on. Anger was replaced by anxiety. He grabbed her by the arms, helping her to stand up. "Come on," he said quietly, his voice empty. "We're leaving." Madison leaned against him, her head spinning. Travis led her out the service exit, avoiding the crowd. Lauren, noticing them, pretended to be busy, but her lips twitched in a faint smile. In the parking lot, Travis lifted Madison into the truck. Almost immediately, she slumped back against the seat, her eyes closing, and she was asleep, her breathing ragged. He didn't say a word, didn't look at her. The car pulled away, and they drove home in dead silence, the lights of Seattle flashing past the window like a reminder of the night that had destroyed everything. Morning sunlight filtered through the blinds in Travis and Madison's bedroom at their Capitol Hill home. It was 10:17 a.m. on a Sunday, and the silence in the house was heavy, like the aftermath of a storm. Madison lay on her bed, her blonde hair disheveled, her face pale, with dark circles under her eyes. She'd been awake for an hour, but a headache and the hazy memories of the night before kept her in bed. Travis was gone. He'd been asleep on the living room couch, not having spoken to her since their silent ride home from Midnight Mix. The video he'd received on his phone, Madison, and Noah in the back room played in his head, tearing at his heart. Madison sat up slowly, her hands shaking. She remembered dinner at Ocean Grove, dancing at the bar, Lauren's drinks, and then everything would become hazy. The image of Noah, his smile, the cramped back room would come back like scenes from someone else's dream, and each one would sting her with guilt. She didn't understand how she could have done this, cheated on Travis, her Travis, the man she loved most. But something was wrong. The drink, its strange, overly sweet taste, her loss of control. It didn't feel like she was drunk. She stood up unsteadily and pulled a gray sweater over her pajamas. Her phone was on the nightstand, but she didn't touch it, afraid of seeing messages, or worse, something that would confirm her worst fears. When she went down to the living room, she found Travis sitting on the couch, wearing the same blue shirt he'd been wearing the night before, now wrinkled. His eyes were red and his face was set, as if he hadn't slept. "Travis," Madison said quietly, her voice shaking. She paused in the doorway, hesitant to approach. He looked up, but there was no warmth in his eyes, only pain and cold. "What do you want?" he asked, his voice hoarse and empty. Madison swallowed, her fingers fiddling with the hem of her sweater. I, I don't know what happened," she began, her words careful. "But I knew that yesterday. It wasn't me. I would never. Travis, I love you." He clenched his fists, his jaw tensing. "You love?" he asked, his tone sharp. "Is that how you love, Madison? With that bartender in the back room?" Her eyes widened and tears immediately came to her eyes. You know," she whispered, her voice breaking. "How? What did you see?" Travis pulled out his phone, his fingers shaking as he opened the video. He didn't turn it on, but he showed her the screen, where a frozen frame of her and Noah was visible, their clothes on the floor. "This," he said, his voice full of pain. "They sent it yesterday while I was in the parking lot. Do you even remember what you were doing?" Madison covered her face with her hands, her shoulders shaking. "No, I didn't," she choked, tears streaming down her cheeks. "Travis, I didn't mean to. I don't know how it happened. I was drinking a cocktail, and then, it's all a blur. I would never hurt you. Never." He looked at her, his anger warring with his love. The video was like a knife in his chest, but her condition pale, shaking, confused made him think. She didn't look like someone who'd knowingly cheated. She looked lost. "You really don't remember anything?" he asked, his tone still harsh, but with a hint of doubt in it. Madison shook her head, wiping away tears. "Just bits and pieces. But I remember Lauren's drink. It was weird, too sweet, with some kind of aftertaste. And after it, I wasn't myself. Travis, something was wrong. I wasn't drunk. That was different." He frowned, her words tugging at something in his memory. Lauren, her insistence on cocktails, her special ingredient. He dismissed the thought yesterday, but now it seemed ominous. "Do you think there was something in the cocktail?" he asked, his voice quieter but still tense. Madison nodded, her eyes full of fear. "I don't know, but I couldn't do this. Not of my own free will." She stepped closer, her voice shaking. "Travis, I'm scared. I'm scared I'm going to lose you. But I want to know the truth. We have to go to the clinic, get tested. If there was something there, we have to find out." Travis looked at her, his heart breaking. Anger screamed at him to leave, but her tears, her honesty, held him. He loved her despite the pain, and if she was right, if someone, maybe Lauren, was manipulating her, he couldn't just turn away. "Okay," he said finally, his voice cold but determined. "Let's go to the clinic." "But Madison, if this is just an excuse." "That's not an excuse," she interrupted, her voice full of desperation. "I swear, Travis, I want the truth as much as you do." He nodded, standing up. His movements were mechanical, as if he was on autopilot. "Get ready. We're leaving now." They drove to the nearest clinic on the outskirts of Seattle in stony silence. Travis gripped the steering wheel, his eyes glued to the road, and Madison sat next to him, fiddling with her seatbelt. She was wearing jeans and the same gray sweater, her face bare, her eyes red from crying. She wanted to speak, but his silence was like a wall, and she was afraid that saying anything would make things worse. Seattle Medical was a modern, white-walled clinic with a smell of antiseptic. The waiting room was quiet, except for a couple of people leafing through magazines. Travis approached the counter, his voice even but tense. "We need to do some blood tests," he told the nurse, a middle-aged woman with a kind smile. "Rapidly. We suspect there might have been something in the drink." The nurse nodded without asking any further questions and handed them the forms. Madison filled out hers, her hand shaking as she wrote. They sat in the corner of the waiting room, waiting for the call, and the silence between them became unbearable. Travis, Madison began quietly, looking at the floor. I know you don't believe me, and I don't blame you, but I can't lose you. You're everything to me. He looked at her, his face hard, but his eyes softened. I saw you with him, Madison, he said, his voice hoarse. It killed me. I don't know what to do next. But if you're right, if someone did this to you, I want to know. Because I don't want to lose you either. Her tears began to flow again, and she squeezed his hand. He didn't pull away, but he didn't return the squeeze either. I never wanted you to hurt, she whispered. I love you, and I'll do anything to fix this. Travis nodded, his throat tightening. He wanted to believe her, but the video was like poison, poisoning his thoughts. He squeezed her hand, just barely, and that was all he could do right now. The nurse called them into the office. The doctor, a man in his 50s with graying temples, listened to their brief explanation, the cocktail, the strange behavior, the loss of control. He didn't ask any unnecessary questions, but his gaze was serious. We'll do a full blood panel, he said, preparing the syringes. If there was something in the drink, we'll find traces. The results will be back in a few hours, but I'll prioritize them. You can wait here. Madison sat on the couch, her sleeve rolled up, as the nurse drew blood. She looked at Travis, standing by the door, her heart clenching at his pain. When it was his turn, he held out his hand silently, his face unreadable. They returned to the waiting room, sitting by the window. Behind the glass, Seattle was alive with its own life, cars, people, clouds. Madison broke the silence, her voice quiet but determined. If it was Lauren, she said, looking at her hands, if she did something, I'll never forgive her. But that's not all I'm afraid of. I'm afraid you won't forgive me. Travis turned to face her, his eyes full of pain, but with a glimmer of tenderness in them. I don't know how to forgive Madison, he said honestly, but I'm here. I want the truth, and I don't want this to destroy us. She nodded, tears streaming down again, but there was hope in them. They sat holding hands, their fingers intertwined, as if this was their last chance to hold on to each other. The wait for the results was excruciating, but it was theirs. The first step towards solving the mystery, towards understanding who or what ruined their night. The nurse came out 2 hours later holding a folder. Mr. and Mrs. Clark, she said, her tone serious. The doctor is ready to discuss the results. Come with us. Travis and Madison stood up, their hands still clasped. They didn't know what the tests would show, but the decision to go to the clinic had brought them closer together, giving them a spark of hope that the truth could save their marriage. In the waiting room of Seattle Medical, time passed painfully slowly. Travis and Madison sat by the window, their hands clasped, but the tension between them was palpable, like a taut string. The clock on the wall read 12:42, and the sunlight pouring through the glass was a contrast to their inner turmoil. Madison, in jeans and a gray sweater, fidgeted with the hem of her sleeve, her eyes red from crying but determined. Travis, still in the wrinkled blue shirt from the night before, stared at the floor, his face set, but his fingers lightly gripping her hand. The video he'd received yesterday, Madison with Noah in the back room of Midnight Mix, still burned in him, but her words about the strange drink and her condition had sowed doubt. They were waiting for the blood test results, which could either confirm her words or destroy their last hope. The nurse, a middle-aged woman with a kind smile, walked out of the office holding a folder. Mr. and Mrs. Clark, she said, her tone serious but gentle. Dr. Lewis is ready to see you. Come with us. Travis and Madison stood up, their movements synchronized, as if they were holding on to each other to keep from falling. Madison's grip tightened on his hand, her breathing uneven. Whatever it is, she whispered, we can handle it together. Travis nodded, his throat tightening. He wanted to believe her, but the pain of the video was too fresh. They walked into the office where Dr. Lewis, a man in his 50s with graying temples and a calm gaze, sat at his desk, looking over papers. "Have a seat," he said, gesturing toward two chairs. His voice was even, professional. "We have your test results, and I want to discuss them with you." Madison sat up, her knees shaking. Travis dropped down next to her, his hand still holding hers, but his gaze was fixed on the doctor. "What did you find?" he asked, his voice hoarse and impatient. Was there something in her blood? Dr. Lewis put the papers down and looked at them, his face serious. "Yes, Mrs. Clark, there are traces of an unknown substance in your blood," he said, turning to Madison. "We have not been able to positively identify it, as it is not a standard toxin or alcohol, but its properties indicate that it may have affected your behavior. This substance likely caused a temporary loss of control, heightened emotions, and decreased inhibitions. In simple terms, it may have made you less conscious of your actions." Madison gasped, her hand clasped to her chest. The tears started again, but now they were a mixture of relief and horror. "So, I wasn't myself?" she asked, her voice shaking. That, that made me do what I did." The doctor nodded, his tone cautious. "Based on your symptoms and results, yes. This substance may have suppressed your ability to make conscious decisions. It does not cause complete shutdown, but it greatly affects behavior, especially when combined with alcohol." Travis squeezed her hand so hard it hurt. His face went pale, his eyes widened. "You mean someone slipped this into her?" he asked, his voice low, almost menacing. "Someone deliberately made her lose control." Dr. Lewis raised his hand for calm. "I can't judge the intent," he said. "But yes, the substance didn't enter her system by accident. It was most likely introduced through a drink, as you suspected. We've saved samples for further analysis, and I recommend you contact the police if you want to investigate." Madison covered her face with her hands, her shoulders shaking. Relief that her actions were not her choice mixed with horror that someone had manipulated her. She remembered Lauren's smoothie, its sweet taste, her insistence, her strange smile. "Lauren," she whispered, her voice full of pain. "It was her. She gave me that drink. She wanted it." Travis turned to face her, his eyes flashing. "Lauren," he asked, his tone sharp, "are you sure? Why would she?" "I don't know," Madison interrupted, her voice louder, more determined. "But she insisted on that cocktail. She talked about a special ingredient. And, Travis, she's always been cold to me. I thought it was just her personality, but now, it's her, I know." Travis thought about Lauren, her smile, her distraction in the parking lot, the video that had come from the anonymous number. It all began to fit together like a puzzle, and anger began to boil inside him. "If this is true," he said, his voice cold as steel, "she will answer for this. I will not let her get away with it." Dr. Lewis cleared his throat, bringing their attention back. "I understand your feelings," he said, "but right now it's important that you both take care of yourselves. Mrs. Clark, the drug is already leaving your system, but you should rest and avoid alcohol. We can issue a police report if you decide to file a complaint." Madison nodded, wiping away her tears. "Thank you, doctor," she said, her voice weak but firm. "I want the culprit to answer. I won't let this ruin my life." Travis looked at her, his anger replaced by something softer. He saw her determination, her pain, and for the first time since last night, he felt like she was his Madison, the one he loved. He squeezed her hand, deliberately now, warmly. "We will find the truth," he said, his voice firm, "and whoever did this will pay." They walked out of the office, holding the doctor's note. In the waiting room, Madison paused, her eyes meeting his. "Travis," she said quietly, "I know you're still angry, and I don't blame you, but I'll do anything to earn your trust back. I don't want to lose us." He looked at her, his face softening, but the pain was still in his eyes. "I don't want to either," he said honestly, "but I need time, Madison. This isn't easy to erase, but I trust you, and I want to figure out who did this." She nodded, her lips twitching into a weak smile. "Together?" she asked, her voice full of hope. Together, he replied, and they walked out of the clinic, their steps in sync, as if they were a team again. In the car, Travis started the engine but didn't move. He looked at Madison, who was holding the certificate, her fingers shaking. "If it's Lauren," he said, his voice low, "why? What did we do to her?" Madison shook her head, her thoughts returning to their past. "I don't know," she said, "but she was always weird with me, like she held a grudge. Maybe it has something to do with you. You dated in college." Travis frowned, memories of Lauren flooding back their brief romance, her coldness after the breakup, her smiles that never reached her eyes. "If she's taking revenge for this," he said, "then she's sick. But we'll find out. We'll find evidence." Madison nodded, her resolve strengthening. "I want to look her in the eyes," she said, her voice firm. It was a quiet Sunday night in Belltown, the streets empty from Saturday's debauchery. Midnight Mix had closed an hour ago, its neon sign dimmed, leaving only the dim glow of its streetlights on the wet pavement. Travis and Madison stood at the stage door, their breath curling in the cool air. Travis, in a black jacket and jeans, clutched a note from the clinic that had confirmed the presence of an unknown substance in Madison's blood. His face was hard, his eyes blazing with anger. Madison, in a dark coat, her blonde hair pulled back into a messy bun, held his hand, her determination mingling with pain. They knew Lauren, their ex-girlfriend, had spiked Madison's drink, causing her to cheat on him with Noah. Tonight, they were here for the truth. Travis knocked on the metal door, his fist hitting the steel with a loud thud. "Lauren," he shouted, his voice sharp. "Open up, we know you're in there." Madison squeezed his hand, her fingers shaking. "She won't get away with it," she whispered, her voice firm. "I'll make her look me in the eye." The door creaked and Lauren appeared in the doorway. Her red dress had been replaced by a black t-shirt and jeans. Her hair was disheveled and her face was tired, but her smile was as dazzling as ever, if strained. "Travis?" "Madison?" she said, her tone surprised but her eyes alert. "What are you doing here at this hour?" "Don't pretend," Travis snapped, stepping forward. "We know what you did. Let us through." Lauren hesitated, her hand tightening on the door frame, but retreated under his gaze. "Okay, come in," she said, her voice cautious. "But I don't understand what you're talking about." They entered the dimly lit bar. The counter was empty, the chairs were upside down on the tables, and the air smelled of detergent. Lauren turned on the light above the counter, and her face became visible tense, with a hint of fear. Madison stepped towards her, her eyes shining. "You spiked my drink," she said, her voice shaking with anger. "Saturday. You wanted me to lose control. And you got your way, Lauren. I cheated on Travis, and you planned it." Lauren raised her hands, her smile faltering. "Mad, are you serious?" she said, her tone almost mocking. "You had a couple of cocktails and decided I poisoned you? That's crazy." Travis threw the certificate on the counter, the paper slapping with a dull sound. "It's not crazy," he said, his voice cold as ice. "These are the test results. There was a substance in her blood that made her lose control. And you, Lauren, gave her that cocktail. Do you want us to go to the police? Because we will." Lauren looked at the certificate, her face pale. She opened her mouth to protest, but the words stuck. Madison stepped closer, her voice growing louder. "Why, Lauren?" she asked, her eyes filling with tears. "I thought you were my friend. Why did you do this? What did I do to you?" Lauren stepped back, her back against the counter, her mask of friendliness cracking and her fists clenched. "You want to know why?" she blurted, her voice breaking. "Because you took him, Madison. You took Travis, my Travis, right out from under my nose." Travis frowned, his anger turning to shock. "What are you talking about?" he asked, his tone sharp. "We broke up in college, Lauren. That was 100 years ago. You dumped me." Lauren laughed, but it was a bitter, almost hysterical laugh. "Left," she said, her eyes flashing. "I was trying to protect myself, Travis. I loved you, but you were already looking at her. At Madison, with her perfect smile and her movie life. I saw the way you looked at her, and I couldn't stand it. Madison gasped, her hand pressing to her chest. You hated me all this time, she whispered. All those years we were friends. It was a lie. Lauren turned away, her fingers gripping the edge of the counter. Not exactly a lie, she said, her voice quieter. I tried to be your friend, Mad, but every time I saw you together, I remembered that it could have been me. I wanted you to feel my pain, to make your perfect marriage fall apart. Travis stepped forward, his voice full of fury. So you drugged her to cheat on me, he asked, his fists clenching. You used Noah to set this up? And what, you made a video to finish us off? Lauren looked at him. Her eyes were full of tears, but there was anger in them too. Yes, she admitted, her voice shaking. I gave her a cocktail with a substance. It was supposed to loosen her up, make her lose her mind. Noah, he just did what I asked. And the video, I wanted you to see it, Travis, to show you that she's not perfect. Madison gasped, tears streaming down her cheeks. You're a monster, she said, her voice full of pain. You ruined my life, Lauren. You made me betray my husband, the man I love most. Lauren covered her face with her hands, her shoulders shaking. I didn't mean for it to go this far, she muttered. I wanted you to suffer, Madison. But then, I couldn't stop. Travis grabbed the certificate from the counter, his voice cold. You're going to pay for this, Lauren, he said, his tone like a sentence. We're going to the police. We have evidence, and you're not getting away with it. This isn't just revenge, it's a crime. Lauren looked up, her face broken, the mask of friendliness crumbling. Please, she whispered, her voice full of panic. I didn't mean to. I lost everything, Travis. Don't do this. Madison stepped towards her, her eyes blazing with anger. You lost it, she blurted. You almost ruined my marriage. You made me feel dirty, guilty, like I was worthless. You don't deserve pity, Lauren. Lauren sank into a chair, her hands shaking. She looked small, broken, but neither Travis nor Madison felt any sympathy for her. Their anger was one, their pain uniting them like never before. We're leaving, Travis said, taking Madison's hand. But this isn't the end. You'll face the law, Lauren, and if you try to contact us, you'll regret it. Madison looked at Lauren, her voice quiet but firm. I trusted you, she said, and you betrayed me. You're not part of our lives anymore. They turned and walked out, leaving Lauren alone in the empty bar. The door slammed shut, the sound echoing through the room. Lauren sat there, her face wet with tears, but no one saw her weakness. She knew her revenge had backfired on her, and now she had to face the consequences. Outside, Travis and Madison pulled up to the truck. Madison clung to it, her body shaking with emotion. I can't believe she did this, she whispered, her voice full of pain. All because of some old affair. Travis wrapped his arms around her, his hands warm but firm. She's sick, Madison, he said, his voice full of determination. But we're stronger. We've survived this, and we're going to get justice. Madison nodded, her tears soaking into his jacket. Together? She asked, her voice weak but full of hope. Always, he replied, kissing her forehead. They climbed into the car, their hands clasped. Lauren's confession had closed the mystery, explaining why their night had turned into a nightmare. But the truth had left scars on their trust, on their hearts. They'd driven home knowing they had a long way to go, but now they were united, their anger and love focused on one thing, rebuilding what Lauren had tried to destroy. A May sunrise painted the sky over the California coast pink and gold as Travis and Madison stood on the beach in Point Reyes, an hour outside of San Francisco. The chill wind off the Pacific Ocean tugged at their clothes, but they ignored it, holding hands. Madison, in a warm sweater and jeans, looked out at the waves, her blonde hair flying, her face calm for the first time in months. Travis, in a black jacket, squeezed her fingers, his gaze fixed on the horizon. Their road trip up the coast from Seattle through Oregon to California had been more than a vacation. It had been an attempt to rebuild what Lauren Kane had tried to destroy. Today, 3 months after their confrontation at the Midnight Mix, they felt like they were finally seeing the light ahead. The past still left scars. Lauren, their ex-girlfriend, had slipped an unknown substance into Madison's drink, causing her to cheat on him with the bartender Noah, which she recorded and sent to Travis. Blood tests confirmed the manipulation, and Lauren's confession gave them the evidence to bring them to justice. But the road to healing was long, filled with pain, doubt, and a battle for trust. "It's beautiful, isn't it?" Madison said, her voice soft but strong. "I could stand here forever." Travis turned to face her, his smile warm, if reserved. "Yes," he replied, squeezing her hand. "But you'd be frozen in an hour. Would you like some coffee? I saw a cafe in town." She giggled, poking him in the side. "You always think about the practical. But yes, coffee sounds perfect." They walked across the sand to their car, parked along the trail. Their truck, still barely scratched from that night at the bar, was loaded with backpacks and blankets. It was their last stop before heading back to Seattle, where work, therapy, and news of the case against Lauren awaited. 3 months ago, after Lauren confessed to her plan, Travis and Madison filed a report at the West Precinct Police Station in Seattle. Detective Margaret Hayes, a woman with tired eyes and a firm voice, took their clinic report and video, assuring them that the case was serious. Lauren was arrested a day later on charges of second-degree assault and invasion of privacy. When questioned by police, Noah denied knowledge of the drug, but admitted that Lauren had encouraged him to have fun with Madison, making him an accessory. The prosecutor was building a case, and the couple's lawyer, David Crow, a seasoned Seattle attorney, argued that Lauren faced up to 5 years in prison if she didn't take a plea deal. A civil suit for emotional distress and invasion of privacy was filed in parallel. Crow estimated they could recover up to $150,000, accounting for psychological distress and therapy costs. Madison, still struggling with guilt, began seeing a psychologist, Dr. Ellen Reed, whose sessions helped her cope with her shame. Travis joined couples therapy, where they learned to talk about their pain without tearing each other down. It wasn't easy. Travis sometimes withdrew, and Madison cried when recalling the video, but they held on, their love an anchor. In the car, heading to the cafe in Point Reyes, Travis turned on the radio, but kept the volume low so as not to interfere with their conversation. Madison looked out the window, her fingers fiddling with the bracelet Travis had given her before that fateful night. "Are you thinking about business?" he asked, glancing at her. She nodded, her face becoming more serious. "Yes," she said. "Crow called yesterday. Lauren offered a deal, 2 years probation and $50,000 in compensation if we don't insist on jail. Do you think we should take it?" Travis frowned, his hands tightening on the steering wheel. "She deserves better," he said, his voice firm. "She almost destroyed us mad, but I don't want this trial to drag us out for years. What do you think?" Madison sighed, her gaze fixed on the ocean outside the window. "I want her to pay," she said, her voice quiet but determined. "But I'm tired of being a victim. If we take compensation and close this, we can move on. I don't want her to hold us back." Travis nodded, his anger softening. He knew Madison was right. The trial could be an emotional burden, and they had already begun to build a new future. "Then we'll tell Crow to take the deal," he said. "But I want her to know we haven't forgiven her." "She will never be a part of our lives," Madison said, her voice full of strength. "I blocked her everywhere, deleted all the photos. She is the past." They parked outside Coast Brew, a small spot with wooden tables and a view of the bay. They ordered lattes and cinnamon rolls and sat by the window, their conversation drifting to lighter topics. Madison talked about her new ad campaign, which she was running remotely, and Travis shared how his Tacoma Bridge project had gotten approval. But their intimacy was cautious. They laughed, but sometimes fell silent, as if testing the waters for the pain. "Remember how much you wanted this trip?" Travis said, sipping his coffee. "Cannon Beach, Astoria, now Point Reyes. You were right, it saved us." Madison smiled, her eyes sparkling. "It didn't quite save us," she said softly. "We saved ourselves. but it helped. I can feel us again. He took her hand, his fingers intertwined with hers. Me too, he said. But Mad, I'm serious. I don't want us to get stuck again. Let's promise no more secrets, no more bars without each other. She giggled, but her look was serious. It's a deal, she said. And, Travis, I want us to continue therapy. Dr. Reed is helping. I don't want to pretend everything is perfect. He nodded, his face softening. I agree. And you know, I was thinking maybe we should get a dog. He smiled, his tone lightening. Something like a Labrador, to run around on the beach. Madison laughed, her laughter genuine for the first time that morning. A dog? Are you serious? You grumble when I leave my shoes in the hallway. I'll get used to it, he winked, if it makes you happy. They finished their rolls, chatting about small things, what they would name their dog, what towns they would visit next. But their conversation turned to the future, to what they both feared but wanted. I was thinking about children, Travis said quietly, looking at her. Not now, but someday. Do you still want them? Madison froze, her eyes filling with warmth. Yes, she whispered. I want to. But I need to know that you trust me after everything. He squeezed her hand, his voice firm. I trust you, Mad. It wasn't your decision. And I forgive you. We need time, but I believe in us. She nodded, tears welling up, but she smiled. Thank you, she said. I love you, Travis, more than ever. I love you too, he replied, and they kissed softly, but with a promise that was stronger than the pain. They left the cafe, heading back to the beach to take some last photos before they left. The dawn had turned into a clear day, the ocean sparkling in the sun. Travis wrapped his arms around Madison, her head on his chest, and they stood there, listening to the waves. Lauren was in the past, her bar closed in scandal, her reputation in ruins, and her plea deal with the prosecutor meant she would pay the price. But Travis and Madison were looking forward, their marriage forged in fire and stronger. They knew there would be scars, but their love, their truth, their journey together was stronger. Home? Travis asked as they returned to the truck. Home, Madison nodded, her smile bright. But let's stop by to pick up that Labrador. He laughed as he started the engine, and they drove off, leaving behind the coast and the shadows of the past, with the faith that only light awaited them ahead. Subscribe to our channel so that your love doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think click to the next one.